Hey everybody, this is Stephen Rice. Start my stream over today on YouTube. We're gonna get to work pretty much right away. Talk about a lot of different stuff and see what we can kind of get moving here for us. Um, so the piece you're seeing in front of me right now is the finished Go for Broke poster that we finally got approval, got shipped off, being printed. Pretty much everything that needed to be on here is on here. So it's perfect. So I'm just saving that just so that we get everything saved properly and go from there. Once this is saved, we're going to be moving over to the portrait for Brianna again and try to finish that up tonight and kind of go, because it's, I'd say, about maybe 50% done so far. The contrast is kind of there. I really want to work on the main portrait, finish up the hair, and do all of that stuff. So I'm going to set up my reference image yet again. And hopefully my audio is a lot better now than it was last stream. I got a new microphone like I promised I would if I got the chance to. So I did get the new microphone and everything. Now that I have that, everything should sound a hell of a lot better. If not, let me know in the chat or in any of the comments or anything of that nature. If it sounds like crap, let me know. I don't have my MacBook in here right now, so I'm doing my live chat off my phone. So if I'm looking over at the live chat and don't see your question right away or anything like that, definitely keep asking it, and I'll be a jerk and probably ignore it the whole time. Not because I want to, but because I just didn't notice it, because I'll probably be zoned out doing this piece and trying to get everything kind of going here. So we'll just kind of dive on in, and I wanted to talk a lot about influences and where I see myself being as an artist eventually, because it's hard to kind of see art as any type of career when you're first starting out, because frankly it's hard. it's harder than going out and getting a 9-to-5 job, because you're pretty much, you have to devote so much to it, and honestly I don't devote enough time to my art yet. And that's a pretty big issue. Is, you know, it comes with the territory of being a dad and stuff like that. But wouldn't have it any other way. Get this going here. For some reason my tablet has been acting up lately, so we'll kind of see what we can do with that for us. If you ever want to donate any money to me or anything, you know, I definitely would not say no. Of course, no one in their right mind would be like, no, don't give me money so I can pursue a better art career. Don't do that. What's wrong with you? You insane? I'm not insane. But yeah, you can always either hit me up or message me, and I could always get you my PayPal or anything like that. And you can help brother out. You can help brother out. In fact, what I should do here, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and pop a donation to my donations here. I'll pop that in the description below. That way you do know where to shoot some donations over if you needed to or anything like that. So let me grab this here. I'll put it right in my hair. Alright. See, in my video while you're seeing my video. Crazy. Alright. Got that all going there. So, back to the task at hand. After I wasted a bunch of time doing that. If you did want to donate, links in the description below. Anything you donate, it'll pop up and yell at me and let me know, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the stream. And thank you so very, very much for doing as much as you could. Alright. So, when it comes to influences, because that's what I really wanted to get into with the first bit here for us, because influences mean a lot to artists. You don't become an artist just because you found a pencil on the ground and decided, hey, I'm gonna scribble on some pieces of wood with this. There's usually something kind of pushing you towards the direction of becoming an artist. Whether you are a musician or anything like that, there's always something that kind of caught your eye, usually at a young age. And it just kind of made you think to yourself, yeah, that's what I would want to do. I want to pick that particular type of creativity outlet and really go with it. With me, musically, Metallica was probably my biggest influence when I grew up. There's something about their music back in the 80s and the early 90s and everything when I was in high school was just, it clicked for me. Other people, they'll hear Slayer and they'll be like, I want to do that. And nowadays people hear bands that are out there, like they'll hear Killswitch Engage, they'll hear a lot of the gent bands out there that names I really don't know, to be fair, like Periphery and stuff like that, or even now it's probably pretty common even to just catch a YouTuber and be like, man, that guy, I want to be able to do that, I want to be able to check them out, whether it's like Rob Scallon or Jared Dines or anybody like that, I'm sure have influenced people to pick up the instrument. For good or bad, depending on your viewpoint. I like both of them myself. I think they're hilarious and really good musicians. But it really comes down to influences that kind of push you towards doing what you want to do. And art-wise, I kind of wear my influences very proudly on my sleeve for a lot of different pieces. The first and probably biggest influence I've personally had was Drew Struzan, which, if you look at my technique, you look at what I do, I've tried to emulate his style for probably my whole career in some way. There's this, I just like the way he does things, especially when it comes to portraits and stuff like that. It's, when I was growing up, I still am very, very much into film and cinema, and part of that movie-going experience in the 80s was flipping through your newspaper. It was Sunday morning papers. They always had it. You flip through your Sunday morning paper, and what would you end up seeing in that Sunday morning paper in the entertainment section? You'd end up seeing, the movie ads, and a lot of times those movie ads were just reproductions of the posters that were already hanging up in the theaters. And that was the way, other than through VHS and stuff like that, that was the way to see movies back then, man. It was really, going to the theater was always an experience, no matter what. And it was always a pretty awesome experience, in my opinion. Not so much nowadays, but I'll get into that if I start a podcast or something about film. But part of the experience is seeing all of the film posters when you go there, lined up on the outside of the theater, and you walk in, and there's the pillars of different movie posters and everything just kind of jumping out at you, and you walk through and you'd be like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out. I didn't even know they were making this, because there was no internet back then to spoil things. And you relied on movie posters to quite literally sell you on that movie. And posters that always drew me in were these hyper realistic yet so stylized movie posters I'd see. I was too young to see Back to the Future 1 in theaters. I was only 4 when that movie came out. But I did see Back to the Future 2 and 3 in theaters, and I see those posters hanging up, and I already seen the original Back to the Future on like TV reruns and stuff like that, and I already loved the original Back to the Future. It's, when you think about it, I was around 8 years old or so when Back to the Future 2 came out, and then 3 later. But I already was a fan of the movie, and I'd see maybe a TV snippet here and there, but my introduction was the poster. And other movies that I ended up seeing, in theaters, the posters always jumped out at me. And one of the first movie-going experiences I ever had was Masters of the Universe. And I won't get into the merits of the film or anything like that, but yet again, that's another poster that just drew me in, and it was another Struzan. And then, as I was growing up, I always liked the film art I'd see. It was always something special about the art in general that just would drag me in. And again, there was no internet or anything like that, and I'd see this tiny little squiggly line of a signature, in the corner of some of the posters, and it always looked to me that it was the same guy drawing every single poster that I just adored. And I tried to make out the squiggly line and everything, and then finally, eventually, I realized it said the word Drew. That didn't help me. It didn't help me even a little bit until I started getting internet access and stuff. And there's something about the way his posters were, because they would look so much like an actual painting, yet an actual photograph at the same time. Like you could see the airbrush parts, with the way he did his borders and everything like that. Yet he would look like, especially like say with the Back to the Future 2 poster, you'd look at that poster and you could see every single individual fiber in the jeans that Michael J. Fox was wearing. You could see every single stitch in the jackets and everything. Or at least he made you feel like you could. Because I know you couldn't actually see every single little thing. Very close to it. But you would just look at this and you'd be in awe of it and realize that this wasn't photography. And for me at least, it kind of just blew me away that there's somebody out there with that much talent who could just draw these types of things. And like I said, Struzan was my biggest influence when it would come to the type of art that I do now. But I also was really into comic books, like most kids. So other influences I had there. When it came to comic books, I became a comic books kid in the 90s. So bear with me. I have more sense now than I may have had then. But I honestly, I was a really big fan of Todd McFarlane's stuff. I got the first issue of Spawn when it first came out, based off of his Spider-Man run. I would follow comics based on the artists, where some people follow comics based on the storytellers, the script writers, whoever wrote the actual story, which probably got a lot better comics out of the deal than I would have. But I was an art follower. and um, you follow things and you would emulate people and everything, and that's when I would start to get into the golden age comics a little bit more, because I came across a book when I was younger, which I believe they still publish, called "How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way." And it wasn't so much that they taught you how to draw comics the Marvel way as they taught you how to draw comics the Jack Kirby way. And so I started to get into that older style of comic drawing and stuff. And I at the time fancied myself. I really wanted to be a comic artist. I thought that's where it's something that I could actually get into pretty easily on my own. Because back then. You'd think about comic books and stuff like that, and they were everywhere. You could walk in a grocery store and you'd see them and stuff, and that was kind of, honestly, a little bit of the naivety of myself, thinking that was an easy business to get into or anything like that. It's not. Nothing art-based is easy to get into, even a little bit, but don't give up. That's one thing I'm telling you right now. Don't give up on it. So the crux of the situation for me was growing up. That's what I want to do. I want to draw comics. This is me, in elementary school, making this decision to myself of that's what I'm going to do. Sitting in I believe it was my my like 4th or 5th grade classroom, and finally making the decision. I was drawing at the time and everything, but that's what my goal was then, and. My downfall was my own insecurities when it came to certain things, and to this day, it's still probably my biggest downfall. Is I don't believe in myself as much as I should. You can ask anybody who I've worked with on any project, whether it's music related, whether it was art related, script related, film related, from short films I've done in the past, anything like that. You can ask them, and they'll tell you flat out. They'll be like, "Yeah, well, dude just needs to shut up, suck it up, and not worry about what other people think." I did not have the luxury of being able to be that open about stuff. So, what ended up happening with me was there was another artist who was in elementary school with me, and me and him gravitated towards each other, and we were friends, but we also were kind of rivals at the same time. And the same thing happened to me in high school when it came to music. I won't get into that quite yet, but we were kind of rivals because he, at least in my eyes, and anybody who went to elementary school with me, if they're listening, they could probably chime in and be like, "You're what? You're out of your mind, whatever." But he had the kind of the pretty boy kind of thing going for him. So everything that he touched, he got the attention for, because he was the not only was he talented, because he was a really good artist. Back then, you couldn't hear me say that. I'd rip his art apart and be petty about things quite a bit. What do you mean? No, you don't. No, him? No, don't have him draw Ren and Stimpy for you. I'll do that for you. No, his heart would be terrible. Why would you do that? But I always felt that he was getting a lot more attention about the artwork than I was, and I became a little bitter about that, because I felt that I was at least on the same level as he was, and it was one of those things in this memory that I distinctly still remember, and it's stupid and childish, but that's good because I was in 5th or 6th grade, so I was allowed to be a child. Where there was an art day, in the library of our elementary school, and the library in our elementary school was pretty much right in the center, and it had a circular kind of area in the middle for you to kind of sit and read books and relax. And the 6th grade classrooms were around the outside of that area. And I was sitting in there, and there was all these high school students who came in who were there to teach us about art and what they've learned and everything, and impart their many years of wisdom upon us, being that they were only 4 or 5 years older than us. There was a couple of adults there too who were mostly just there to chaperone. But my air conditioner just came on, so I'm closing that window. Basically, what ended up happening is we were all sitting there, and they go, hey, yeah, so we're going to go ahead here, and we're going to do a live art demonstration with you and some of the other students there. And me and this kid, and I'm not mentioning his name just because it's kind of a stupid story, and if he's still out there somewhere, I don't want him hunting me down and trying to kill me, because he's a little crazy. But he wasn't. He was kind of crazy. He had a bad childhood. But basically, me and him were the ones who were pulled aside because we were the only ones who did any art in that particular class. So we went ahead and got up there, and they were like, "Oh, well, we only need one person. We don't need two." And we were both already promised that we'd both get to do stuff. And what they did then, in their infinite teenage wisdom, they go, "Okay, well, how about we leave it up to your classmates, and we will see what they have to say." So they turn to the class and they go, "Okay, which one of these two is the better artist? Which do you think will do best in our little challenge here?" So it instantly became a popularity contest in a schools where I was kind of just seen as a weird outsider. I was the weird artsy fat kid who still liked pro wrestling even though it's obviously fake, and would proudly wear his Ultimate Warrior jacket every single day until the end of time. I want that jacket back. And it was the way things went. So of course they went him, pointing to that particular person. Screw it. His name was Joe. This makes life easier, and it's a common name. So Joe goes up and he starts to do his little art demonstration and everything like that. And I'm sitting there stewing, just being angry, kind of just not wanting to even pay attention to anything anybody had to say at this point. And what ended up going on is I was just sitting there, and I decided to doodle instead. And I was just drawing, and I drew this, I think it was Ren and Stimpy I drew, actually. And if you couldn't tell from my style that I do now, even back then I liked having borders around stuff. It just kind of solidified things for me and gave it a little bit of separation from anything that was around it. You can see it pretty much everywhere. I like a nice thick border. And I was doing that, and it was my style. That's what I like to do. And as I was doing it, some people came over and they were watching me sketch, and it was some of my classmates, it was some of the art students from the high school who came around and stuff like that, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I'm just kind of sketching out." They're like, "No, we know you're sketching, but why are you ruining it?" And I go, "What do you mean?" "Well, why are you ruining your artwork?" I'm not. I'm adding my border. This is what I like. This is the thing that's gonna Gonna bring me to the top, kid. I don't think I actually said that. I probably was just very quiet. Oh no. But they asked me that. They said, "Why are you ruining your art?" And I'm just like, well, I'm not ruining my art. I'm adding a border to it so it kind of stands out a little bit more bold. Oh, that just ruins art. Why would you want to do that? And I once again was just like, oh, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm just trying to draw. And I thought about that afterwards, and again, you think of a million and one amazing things to say after the fact, and what should I have said? My art, leave me alone. Are you paying me to do this? You're not? Well then, my art, leave me alone. But I didn't, and that kind of affected me in ways it shouldn't have. He kind of became an arch nemesis of mine for a while then. To be fair, he probably didn't even realize it. But anytime there was, anything art related to work on or anything, from there on in, I never spoke up. Not even stuff that I would really want to do, and there would be, art projects that would come up, like, even stupid stuff like dioramas and crap like that, and everyone would be like, "Hey, have Joe do it. Joe's the artist. He's the one who can do amazing work." And like I said, looking back on it now, in fifth and sixth grade, dude was freaking. He was ridiculously good. he was better than I was back then. I was really good at looking at an image and drawing it up and making it look snazzy and nice and everything. And can't tell I'm pretty good at that now. But back then it wasn't very common for kids to draw on the level both me and him were drawing on. And I kind of stuck to myself. I didn't want to deal with the whole thing. So once I was out of elementary school, and with us, it wasn't that you went to middle school and then you went up to high school. Our middle school was junior high school. So that was 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And Joe wasn't around then. I think he got moved to a Catholic school or something like that. He was around a little bit, but never really had any classes with him or anything like that. But I still didn't really, at least that I can remember, I didn't do much art-wise. I liked doing it. I didn't talk to people about me being an artist or anything. For a while there, when I was in junior high, and then I started. It was mostly because I started playing guitar, a lot when I went to high school. I started playing guitar when I was 9, but when I got to high school, I would play 8 hours plus a day, give or take, easily. That's with going to school and everything like that. So. Guitar kind of became my passion then for a while. Trying to start up bands and all that kind of stuff. Once in my school, once you got to 10th grade, so for your 10th, 11th, and 12th years, when you're actually in high school, they went ahead and allowed you to go to the local VOTEC school, vocational technical school. And if you wanted to, you could make that kind of elective where you'd go there half a day. And you'd go there half a day, you would learn a trade, and you either it was in the morning or it would be you'd be at night. Well, not at night, but you'd go, and then lunchtime would come around, and you'd be driven to the VOTEC, and you'd eat lunch there. So I was in those nighttime. Second half of the day classes. I keep calling them nighttime. It wasn't nighttime. We were out of there by 3. But we'd go ahead and we'd do that. And when you first get there, they give you a tour. Oh, here's all the different classes you can take. You have to pick one to kind of go all the way through. But what we're going to allow you to do is to pick 4 that you're interested in for the first year. And you can kind of swap between those 4 as you kind of see fit to see what's best for you. But the sooner you pick where you want to be, the better it's going to be for you moving forward. Makes sense. Sounds awesome. So I looked at some normal trade stuff. I remember correctly, I looked into masonry. For some reason, building stuff out of bricks and everything like that seemed kind of interesting to me. Just didn't like the vibe in the class, if I recall correctly. Which happens, whatever. I don't think I actually would have been any good at masonry overall. But next thing I went ahead and signed up for was the graphic arts program. And back then, what that mostly was, print. Here's how to operate printing presses. Here's how to use large document printers. Here's how to make newspaper. Here's how newsprint works. It was kind of teaching you that stuff. Here's how, here's the basics of logo design and things of that nature. I stuck with that a little bit, but it was more on the technical side, not so much on the artistic side. And you've heard a good chunk of this story on my last live feed, but if you weren't there for that one, this is all new to you. So, in the commercial arts class, I ended up sticking with it. That was where I went next after graphic arts, graphic design. I mean, and commercial arts was there literally to teach you how to be a professional artist. There was no other goal in the mind of our teacher. We had 2 different teachers, but the goal was to teach you how to be a professional. Giving you assignments, giving you deadlines, go. And it had to be a commercially viable product by the end. We were still taught some art history and all that kind of good stuff, but overall, it was go, be a professional artist. Here you go. That struck me. That was a good vibe for me, to put it that way. That stuck with me. And that's where I spent my entire 3 years at Votech. And the reason I'm kind of telling this story again is I wouldn't say an addendum to the story itself, but it goes along with influences and what people think artistry can be. And when people aren't artists, and I mean, it even goes with musicians and stuff as well, they think everything is pardon me, everything's easy in some fashion. There's always some type of trick to it. There's some type of button you can hit and everything kind of works. Or they think that a technique that you may use is not as respectable as some other people might be. For instance, a lot of people, when they hear about artists, and the first thing they kind of do is, oh, well, do you draw everything out of your own head? Well, usually, no. No artist really fully, 100% always takes things out of their own mind. At some point, they learned from references. References are very important to an artist, especially if you want it to look right. And I can't stress that enough. Even if people think that that's not true, it is true. artists out there who specialize in kind of abstract and you know, weirder art, or people who do tattoo work who might have more cartoony kind of stuff. When they first were learning, I guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt, they learned their anatomy first by picking up a copy of Gray's Anatomy book or anything like that. They had to learn anatomy, because what you have to do, and I'm not a good cartoonist. I will never be a cartoonist. I really love the style. I wish I could. I'm still studying. I'll probably do a live stream of me trying to do cartoon style stuff one day, just so everybody can laugh at me. And I'll make a big event out of it. But in order to stretch proportions, and in order to make a cartoon still relatable, you had to learn your anatomy. It's a matter of a fact. You know, you can't properly make somebody's tongue and jaw flop down like good old Tex Avery cartoons. And you can't have that happen without at least knowing what the anatomy of a wolf jaw would be, for the most part. It may seem silly, but you do need to know anatomy. And in Drew Struzan's instance, people just have a general lack of art history. Which, if you're not deeply into art, then why would you have a knowledge of art history? I understand that. It's trying to dispel some stigma around certain techniques. When I was in art school, in commercial arts, we were taught a couple different things. One of the very first things we were taught was the use of a projector. And every student in my class, they brought it up. Well, isn't that kind of cheating? And the teacher, I really, really, really wish I remembered his name. I remember his first name. His first name was, I believe it was Greg. I think it was like Mr. Mans, Mr. Greg Mans, I believe. I might have his first name wrong now, but I know that was his last name. He said, if you are making art for a living, and the client that you're working with says to you, you need to paint this person for us, and you have 3 days to do it. And we don't mean 3 days to do the original sketch. We don't mean 3 days to run through some comps, and once you have those comps done, then you get another 3 days, and so on and so forth. You know, they mean 3 days from comp to finish. Full finish painting. If someone says that to you, and they say also that the picture of the person has to be accurate. It has to look like that person. And the reason is, it's in their contract. It's in this person's contract with us for this ad that they get final approval over their image at all times. So, what do? Do you spend your entire 3 days drawing by eye a picture of this person? Or do you use techniques that you know will get things right and will get you another job in the future? Because if you think you can do it by eye, maybe this isn't the right job for you. So they taught us the projector technique. You take a photograph, project it onto your board where you want it, and you trace the image that you want in pencil. They taught us the grid technique, where you take a photo, you overlay a grid on it, and then you take that grid You put it onto a much larger piece of board, or on the same size, depends on if you want to. And you go ahead and you use each individual square to make sure everything is accurate. The grid technique is something I got the hang of and used quite a bit, but it took me a long time to get the artwork to look right. So I myself used projection for all of the projects that came after that. And my projects always tended to work and be some of the more accurate stuff. Looking back on them, they were terrible. But in that class, it was that way. It was just the way things kind of go there. And I see, looks like Lovebug is in our chat here. Hello. Welcome. Hope I'm not boring you to death with all the crap I'm saying here. But yeah, looking back on the artwork, it was absolutely horrible. It was pretty much abysmal, to be fair. But it was the best, some of the best out of the class. There was a couple other people who were really, really good too. But all art, no matter which way you do it, can still be an expression of who you are, even if you do go ahead and do the evil word of tracing or whatever to get your initial image down, like Struzan has and stuff. It's the way it is. If you use it as a tool, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're stealing someone else's artwork 100% and line for line just copying what they've already done, well, yeah, that's a bunch of crap. Don't do that. Just don't do it. But if you're taking the reference images or someone's providing you the reference images and you're a commercial artist, you do what you can and you just really get things done, and you get them done the best you can. And I kind of, when I was in my original schooling, it still kind of bugged a lot of people, and a lot of people dropped out of the class after that, and it's just the way it goes. But a lot of people stuck by it, and I know when it comes down to it, I was talking with one of my classmates not that long ago, and she was we were talking about it, and she was just like, have you talked to anybody else from the class? Because I'm pretty sure none of us, other than you and maybe Russ, are actually artists now. I'm like, well, keep in mind, being an artist isn't my 9-to-5 job. But you'll get an imagination eventually. You don't have to worry about that too much there. Because honestly, when when I was a kid and I was going ahead and first learning to draw, that's all you ever did was you copied other stuff. You'd sit there with your comic books open in front of you, and you're looking at it, and you're just checking things out, and that's how you can get a kind of grasp of things, And if you want to, keep going, you can keep going. Some people say, "Oh, well, they're a natural-born artist." That's something I don't really buy into. I think people are naturally born creative sometimes. But overall, I think if someone really wants to pursue art, they can just do it. It's something you can learn. You can learn composition. You can learn everything like that. And I'm still learning every day. I do artwork for Inspire Pro Wrestling, which I talked about on some of my other live streams before. And I started off one campaign and I did, the initial sketches for everything. And by the time I was done with those initial sketches and I went to kind of pull them into the original poster that I was working on, what ended up happening was my initial sketches I had to redo. Completely had to redo them because the ones that I did at the end were 10 times better. And that caused a really bad tonal shift. When it comes to noticing flaws, that'll bug you to the end of time, because I'm the only one who notices them too. Like, I'm looking at this piece right now, and I'm seeing so many flaws, it's kind of ridiculous. But I'm not done. I'm not even close to done with this piece. So you'll notice your flaws, and it's not very fun at all. I recently got a proof of a piece I did for Inspire. They had it printed out, and it was in in their local newspaper down in Austin, Texas. And they send me copies and stuff. And I was looking it over, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm just like, oh man, I got anatomy wrong here. I messed up skin tone there. It was terrible, and no one noticed it. I'm the only one who noticed it. But I'm just looking at it, and I was just... my son comes up to me, he's only 4. He's like, why do you keep staring at your art? I'm like, because it's terrible. And he's just like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, you don't understand. He's just like, shut up. I'm like, first of all, you're 4. Stop telling me to shut up. And second of all, you'll probably understand. Hopefully he doesn't understand. Hopefully he has that kind of confidence, confidence in himself that he'll just bust things out and not worry about anything from there on in. But I, however, do not have that kind of confidence. Never have. I probably at this point in my life never will. But we'll see here. I appreciate the compliment. Thanks for thinking it's awesome so far. I have quite a way to go, but that's one of the reasons my portraits take me a long time. I like to have things perfect, especially in this instance. The client here, she kind of just wanted to remember her youth. She wanted to have something to remember herself by, but whenever she ends up getting old. And she actually went to high school with me and remembered that I was an artist, and kind of found me on Facebook and went up to, shot me a message and was like, hey, from what I see here, it looks like you're still doing art and everything. I want to commission you to do a piece of me. And that was really flattering. And then I got all kind of nervous, because that's a lot of pressure to put on me. Hey, remember high school, 18 years ago when we, used to be friends, and then I disappeared for forever? Yeah, well, I remember you being a good artist, so I'm going to pay you hundreds of dollars to paint me. And it's like, oh, okay. There we are. That's the one thing about kids, I'll tell you that, is the fact that they can inspire you. Because that's one of the things that when I got back into art, because I stopped doing art completely after I got out of high school. I just didn't do it. I did occasional typography and graphic design stuff for like local bands and everything, but I never actually really drew anymore. And then my son was born, and just something clicked and said I needed to get back into this, and kind of just, all right, I'll do it. And my first few paintings, they were abysmal. I hated every single one of them, but that's all right. I still had them on my website for a very long time afterwards, and eventually I was just like, I need to redo some of these, because this is just bad. And the way I got started was just doing portraits of horror movie icons I just really loved, Freddy and Jason and Pinhead from Hellraiser and stuff like that. That's what I started off doing, and I still love doing that stuff, and kind of go from there. But I occasionally get to do portraits of families and stuff like that, which is a good distraction from my normal stuff, but tends to be a little bit more nerve-wracking than anything. Graffiti is something I tried and realized me and spray cans are not friends, because I couldn't grasp controlling them. Like, I don't know. I probably just really just had, because it was like piss poor spray paint from like Home Depot and stuff like that. But I look at I have a lot of graffiti artist friends, and I look at their stuff when they do stuff on like Instagram Live and stuff, and I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me! How can you even pull that off with a spray can? I think you're faking it. I think it's all digital. I don't really think that, but I like kind of making them angry for some reason. That's another thing that I used to get told a lot when I was first starting, because I was trying to find art communities to be a part of, and that was probably the worst thing I could have done at that stage because I had no confidence in myself. Um, was the communities that I got into. You know, I'd share some of my art first, and then, oh hey, that looks pretty good. How long have you been drawing? You know, that it would start off amicably at first, and everything was fine. But then what ended up happening was, okay, well, yeah, you know, what techniques to use, and I don't try to hide anything, so I gave a full rundown of what my technique is, you know, which when it comes to portraits like this, to where it has to look as close as possible, I'll, you know, pull the image in that I have, I will trace the basic shapes so that the proportions are right, and then I do what I have here, where I have what I, you know, kind of comped together just to make sure everything looked right, and then I do everything else by eye. You know, I trace where the eyeballs basically will be. I trace the shape of the face. And people would just attack me venomously about it. Oh, well, you know what? That just means you're not a real artist, you don't belong in this community, etc., etc. So, that was my first introduction to the elitism online when it came to artists. You know, I'd post some stuff to Reddit, you know, in certain communities. Hey, I did a Warcraft poster. You guys like Warcraft, so how about I go ahead and share this poster I did? And then, there you go, people would rip into me and be like, you're not a real artist. We can tell that you're just, you know, most of them thought that I just used Photoshop filters. And that infuriated me, because I spend way too much time on this stuff to have it be a filter at this point. And so I started, that's one of the reasons I started my YouTube channel, and I started documenting almost all of my paintings, so that if somebody decided to be a jerk about stuff and call me out on my technique, or say that I didn't actually paint a specific portrait or anything like that, I would just blast them with all of my process images and just be like, so here's where I was doing the initial sketch, and here's where I went ahead and cleaned up the colored pencil, and here's where I did this, and here's where I did that, and just inundate them as hard and as fast as I could with proof that I was a real artist. And for some reason, I just let it get to me way too much, to where I felt I had to just prove to everybody online that I was an artist. I needed their approval. And that was not the way to go. Because all that does is drive you mad. Because 9 times out of 10, it's just people trying to troll people. Or people who couldn't do that themselves and want to call out other people. I went to defend some guy once about his technique, and the dude, just kind of let everybody else rip into me then. And that was it. He just let them just, okay, well, all the heat's off of me for my technique, so I'm going to let this Steve guy, he's going to take the brunt of it now. That's what I'm going to do. So I stopped going on Reddit for my art. I just lurk on Reddit now. I don't post any of my art there anymore. That's the thing with just our communities in general. You have to be really careful that things are right for you. Because if you go ahead and get discouraged just by being in an art community, then it's not right for you. That's the scary part, is people really just can ruin somebody's confidence before they're even starting. And if someone's just learning and they want to go ahead and dive in and just the evil word, if they want to trace a couple of images just to get used to how a pencil works on paper or something, what's the harm in it? I'm not advocating someone going out and taking somebody else's completed artwork and going ahead and posting it everywhere online and being like, look at my artwork, look at what I went ahead and did. That's a bunch of bullcrap. You don't want, those are the type of people who just don't. It just those people infuriate me. But if there's a student out there who just wants to learn how to draw better, or they want to learn how to draw a certain thing, all they need to really do is focus on the muscle memory. Sometimes, like when you're first learning to draw an eyeball, you'll draw it and it'll look wrong because you're just working off your memory of an eyeball. But everybody out there says you have to draw only from your mind. If you don't draw from your mind, then you're not a real artist. And that's all that people hear is, hey, if you don't always draw 100% from your mind at all times, you're not a real artist. What's even the point? And that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's just, no. That's not the way the world should be. At all. It shouldn't be that way. I got messed up with my sketch there. I had to fix. Just people in general online can be volatile, and once you start doing those sketches and you start getting used to, okay, so this is how, if I hold the pencil this way and I go ahead with holding this pencil this way and kind of just flick my wrist, I can get a really smooth curve. I didn't know that. So as they're... Why did I hit my eraser? As you're learning, do whatever techniques work to help you learn. Grab your reference images. Reference images are always an artist's best friend. If anybody tells you they never use references, they are either insane or they are lying out of their teeth. Because when you're learning, you need references. You need to know what stuff looks like. You're not born with a perfect memory of anatomy. It's not the way it works. You're when it comes to anatomy, you're really needing to get things right, or people will tell that it's off. You can just tell when anatomy is off. Even with this piece right now, I'm still kind of struggling at points where I'm looking at something and something feels off, and I go over and I redo it over and over and over again. Like with this particular portrait of her down here with the sunglasses on her head, I redid her mouth 17, 18 times probably because it wasn't coming out right. I had the placement of it right, but just the shape wasn't working, or I had not enough gum showing, or too much gum, or whatever it ended up being. It just wasn't looking right. And same thing happens with noses and stuff. So if you need to go in and do something that people consider to not be artistic, you get something to work right, and it's something you're being paid for, just do it. Stop. And this is hard for me to say because I am horrible when it comes to taking my own advice, but don't let people's opinion of your art dictate how you want your art to be done, as long as you are doing it respectfully and honorably. I've had a few pieces in the past that I've done to where I would use reference images of friends, whether they're female or male friends or anything like that. But before I ever started the piece, the first thing I would do is I'd shoot them a message, and I'd go, "Hey, I have this piece in mind, and what your Facebook profile picture is the exact pose that I was thinking of for this piece. Would you mind if I used your face or your reference, your actual image as a reference for this piece?" That's working honorably, and whether or not at the end of the day the piece could be recognizable as the person doesn't matter. I always ask for permission, even if it's just for their pose. Other things I do, because I just don't have many, friends or anything like that out there, but go ahead and go to stock photos and stuff, and go from there. So, um, I'm just getting caught up on chat there, Lovebug, a little bit. For some reason, it wasn't going through. Um, but right now, I'm using Photoshop CC is what I'm mostly using. Brush wise, I use brushes from KyleBrush.com. He does not pay me to say I use his brushes, but his brushes are absolutely phenomenal. I probably will never use any other brushes in my life. All right. Hey there, Shevers. Yeah, she's pretty. She looks exactly the same as she did in high school, which was almost 18. No, it was 18 years ago now, which is kind of frightening. Um, I told her I'm pretty sure she was a vampire when she sent me the reference images to do the portrait for, and she laughed, but she didn't say she wasn't. So I'm pretty sure she probably is a vampire. Probably not. All right. That's the way the internet works. You always have to have some type of character who just really loves his own farts and thinks everybody else loves his own farts too. Here's a hint: no one loves anybody else's farts. That's just the way the world works. But yeah, I kind of struggle with gum tones and mouth and stuff like that. So I appreciate the compliment when it comes down to that. Um, it's mostly just trial and error. One thing, even though I run Photoshop, I try to work in as few layers as possible, and I really try not to undo anything if I can help it. Um, and the only reason I really do that is because I want to keep my skill up so that when I do have, or if I get a job where they want me to do it on illustration board, I still remember how to do stuff without having the crutch of doing undo. That's something I worry about. Is I'll get so used to doing stuff digitally that someone will come around and be like, "Well, I'm going to pay you 3 times as much to do the portrait if you do it on actual illustration board and send it my way." Then I go 3 times as much, perfect, and then I get in front of an illustration board and I forget everything ever. I forget how to hold a pencil or something. It'll be insane. I used to be just straight number 2 pencil and ink and everything like that, and what ended up happening was just I couldn't afford to keep up because I draw as much as I possibly can. And when my son came along and stuff too, my priorities kind of shifted to stuff like just kind of keeping food on the table and everything. And my jobs never were that good when it came to the 9 to 5 stuff. So I just kind of gravitated towards digital because it allowed me to experiment more. And I didn't have to worry about, okay, well, if I go ahead and do this, will I have enough paint for my airbrush to finish up this project? I didn't have to worry about that anymore. And that just, it was a big weight off my shoulders that I didn't want on my shoulders at that point. Eventually, if this becomes my 9 to 5 job again, to where I can just focus on this at all times, I will probably do a good chunk of that, and I'll live stream that process as well. I have all the equipment to do it. Why not do it? But right now, I haven't bought any acrylic paint for my airbrush probably in 3 years or so. Once I used up the last of what I had, I just kind of stepped back. I was like, nah. I can barely deal with my one, so I do not envy you. 3 kids is probably way too many. I wouldn't be able to handle it. I love my son to death, but if there was 3 of him, I probably would be a lot grayer than I already am. Alright. Something's still not... I think I'm overworking this part of the face just too much. I'm worrying too much about getting it right on the airbrush side of things I'm doing right now. I really need to stop, and I'm not. I need to get in there with my colored pencils quick and do more there, because there's only so much with the style that I do that that really can be done airbrush wise, because a lot of the texture and everything comes from the colored pencil stuff that I do. So I'm getting in there and adding that in and seeing if it kind of brings the structure back that I think I'm starting to lose. I think, at least in my opinion, I'm thinking the face is just looking too plasticky right now, and you know, I have this photograph to kind of thank for it a little bit. Even though it was a professionally done photograph, it feels flat, and I don't want the portrait that I do to feel flat at all. So I am going to try bringing a little bit more contrast in, and let's see what I can do with that. If it fails, then I just paint over it and try again, pretty much. But I want to see if maybe just kind of bringing out the edge a little bit with a highlight might help out. If it doesn't, then I'll just get rid of it and start again. But I think it's helping a little bit here. Like I said, I personally obsess way too much over certain things, and then I end up overworking stuff, and then when I come back to it, I look at it and I just go, I don't like a single aspect of what I did for, 6.5 hours last night. So I'm trying to avoid that, especially because going ahead and getting people here. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. This cheek here definitely does not, something's not working right with it, and I will fix it. It'll eventually get done. The good thing with this particular portrait is I have no time limit on it. She's not worried about how long it's going to take me, which makes me very happy. Because I do well when I have a deadline, but when I don't, I feel I can really just express a lot more artistically with it, which makes me happy overall. If I can take my time and really get things to look right and kind of go from there. I have another portrait that I'm probably going to start the live stream of tomorrow, I think, if I can get this one done here tonight. That's a wedding present for a husband to his wife, and it was not the best of pictures that I was sent, to put it lightly. And I messaged him back when I got the pictures, and I said to him, I was like, okay, so I'm going to be very blunt about this, because if I am not blunt about it, you might not understand the importance of what I'm about to tell you. If I use the references that you provided me, what will end up happening is you'll most likely end up being divorced instead of celebrating an anniversary. And he goes, well, why? I'm like, well, I asked you, because this person's very computer savvy. I asked him for scans at 600 DPI. Not that my art is done at 600 DPI, but I just wanted as much detail as I could, especially because, he was married back in the 70s, so I was sure the reference photo wasn't going to be super great anyway. And I unfortunately was very, very right, because I got the reference. And with the first scan, and it's fixed now, but the first scan, her eyes were just sunken in black holes. There was no detail. I didn't know what color her eyes were or anything. And basically she just looked dead. And I was like, I can draw it that way. I can do that. Don't get me wrong. I can make that I can draw it that way, but it will take me forever of trolling through your Facebook trying to find pictures of your wife that are close enough that I can get detail of what her eye color is, what her eye shape is, because literally all I see are black holes. And he's like, oh, okay. So he sent me new references, and it's still not the greatest, but it's way, way better than it was. So I have to get that done sometime this week. If I don't finish this one tonight, then I'll probably jump over with tomorrow's live stream, because I try to, just so you know, everyone who's watching out there, I know I'm just talking with Lovebug right now, but if there's anybody else watching, I do live streams every night, usually from like 9:30 to 11:30 Mountain Time. It's about 10:41 now. Sometimes they go a little bit longer. Sometimes I cut them short. Usually if I'm just really tired, I'll cut them short, because I'll just start rambling about stuff that's absolutely based off of nothing. One of my streams, I rambled about bands I was in for 45 minutes to literally no one other than myself. I was like, I think it's time to stop this stream tonight and do something else, because I was driving myself insane. But yeah, the old gritty photographs, just they look great as photographs, but if you're trying to pull details from there and make sure that you get somebody looking right, no thank you. Just no. I don't like doing it. And I've had other clients who've done that to me too, and they go, "But well, you're an artist. You can just make stuff up, can't you?" I can. But you're asking me to do a portrait of your husband for his birthday. Do you really want me just to make up what his eyes look like behind those sunglasses, or do you want to provide me a little bit of a reference so I know at least what color his eyes are? Oh, well, his eyes are a hazily green blue with a little bit of yellow, and there's this distinct blue spot here, and here. That doesn't help me, ma'am. Please send me a reference of his eyes. Some people don't understand the process, and that's fine. And I make fun of it because it happens, and if there's people out there who have just do their art for themselves and stuff, and they don't know the type of toils that you can get into when you're doing starting commission work and stuff. That kind of stuff happens, and it happens pretty often. After that client where she wanted me to just make up what his eyes looked like and stuff like that, I actually quit doing private commissions for people I didn't know for a long time. For almost 2 months. I just was like, I don't want to get another client like that right now. I'm just gonna either draw stuff myself, of people that I like, or movie stuff or whatever. Or if a friend or family member who I at least knows my style and will let me just do what I do, if they want something, then I'll do it. But no additional commissions for a while, and it saved my sanity. I was ready to quit after that. I'm over in Colorado, just so you kind of know. My brother lives over in California, and he programs and writes apps and games and stuff like that. So we're both in the creative side of things, and him and me, when we were growing up, kind of just gravitated towards this stuff more than anything. When he was like 12, he was building Linux boxes and everything, and I was just like, man, you're insane. But that's what he liked doing, and that's how he ended up getting a really good freelance career, which is what I'm trying to do. He just recently went freelance. He had a studio job for a long time, working for a company, and he made the decision late last year to actually quit his freelancing quit his actual job and go freelance, and he was prepping for it for a long time, and I was just like, when he told me that he actually did it, which was actually recently because I didn't talk to him for a little bit, I was just like, man, because I kind of was freaking out when I decided to focus on the art side of things for a while and just kind of do the best I can with that and see if it takes me anywhere. I'm still kind of freaking out. Never knowing where my money's going to come from is kind of weird. I'm still looking for a 9-to-5 job that'll not drive me insane, like my old one, but it's hard. It's hard to find something that won't drive you insane. I have never actually been to California, and the only reason I'm in Colorado is because one of my old jobs forced me to move. It's pretty much what it came down to. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I do not deal with change very well. And when my old job was closing down, they're like, but you can go to Colorado and work at our sister location there. And I'm like, are you going to pay for me to move out there? Yeah. Okay, there goes that excuse of not having to do the change. Well, do I still have the same job? Of course you do. Oh, okay. Are you going to still pay me the same? Absolutely. Crap. So I had literally no excuse to not do it. And it was when my son was about to be born and stuff, so I needed to make sure I kept insurance and everything. And me and travel don't go well. But my brother likes it in California, as far as I know, for the most part. I know he kind of misses living in the woods, where we used to live in Pennsylvania. I personally always look for our grandparents' house on online quite a bit, just to see if it ever goes up for sale again. Because after my grandparents died and we got kicked out, because we were raised mostly by my grandparents on my dad's side, and I keep looking for it because when it sold originally, it sold for like $90,000, and just it was a pain to have to be homeless for a while and stuff like that. And he had college that he could go to, so that worked for him. But overall, I always look to see if that house is ever up for sale again, because if it is and I can afford it, I would buy it up and make a weird artist commune kind of place out of that house. See, I couldn't deal with the heat either. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm too much of a fat guy, if you can't tell. And like right now, like today in Colorado, I live in southern Colorado, so it's not always snowy. It's not always cold or anything. Like when you think Colorado, when you think of like up in Boulder and Aspen and stuff like that, you always think cold, snow. Yeah, well, it's also really ridiculously hot at times too. It drives me insane. The first year I moved here was 2012, and it was one of the hottest Colorado summers on record at that time. It was like 103 all the time, and I'm like, did I not move to the Rocky Mountains? Is that not what happened here? Like, why am I so meltingly hot? I just don't understand it. Well, see, that's what I try to avoid. I try to avoid having a weird commune. I'd more just want it to be a place where friends can get together and just create fun stuff. Like all my filmmaker friends, they can come by and use the woods around us and make stuff, and have like free sound stages and stuff for people. If you want to create, throw me a couple bucks, buy me some pizza, come on over. That's what I'd love to be able to do at some point. That's one reason I want to be successful and have money. Not so much that I could be, rich, living in a big house and a mansion or anything like that, but so I could bring my friends along with me. Oh, hey, you have an idea for a movie? Awesome. How much do you need to get it up and running? All right, you want $15,000 to get it going? You got it. Here you go. Here's the $15,000 to try to achieve your dream. If you make it back because the movie ends up being good, definitely pay me back, but not a big deal. I'd love to be able to do that. To just say $15,000, not a big deal. Here you go. Go make a movie. Will I ever get to that point? I don't know. I'd like to. Problem is, I decided to want to be involved in an industry that doesn't respect artists anymore. Like, the whole reason I started doing this again and stuff is because I wanted to create those posters that I saw growing up. You know, I wanted to see my stuff for indie films and things like that. No one cares anymore. What up, Pete? About time you finally caught one of my streams. Hey, Lovebug, thanks so much for dropping by and thanks for the sub. I really appreciate it. Good talk. You've only known me for how long at this point, Pete? I mean, come on. To be fair though, I decided to do my stream on YouTube this time, which makes it a lot easier for people to find me. So, I'll cut you a little slack there, Pete. I'll cut you a little slack. I'm still gonna stream on Twitch every now and then, but it's mostly gonna be my video game stuff. I like Twitch's interface on my PS4 way better than the YouTube interface on my PS4. And I kind of was doing it the other way around. I did a live stream of my playing of Uncharted the other night on YouTube, and it went to the wrong channel. It went to my personal channel for some reason, and all this other kind of headache-inducing crap, so I'm just going to use Twitch when I do my PS4 streams, and people can come and mock me on Twitch at that Stephen Rice whenever I go ahead and go in there to play some games, because I'm terrible at most games I love to play. Like, my Uncharted stream was a lot of hilarity, a lot of me falling off of giant rocks for no reason, and pretty freaking funny. Alright. See, once I broke out the colored pencil, the face started to really feel a lot better for me. I actually might get to finish this tonight. Don't know if I'll live stream the whole process, because I think I have probably about another 2 hours or so, and frankly, I'll probably run out of things to talk about. But, this is coming along a lot better now. I'm happier with it than I was when I first started the stream tonight, so that's super good. And I'm glad I got my new microphone, because I have a feeling people can actually hear me now, and it's not too crackly. It's not the best microphone that I got, but it was one I could afford, and it was better than speaking through my webcam mic or holding up a mic meant for live audio this close to my face, trying to get any type of signal out of it, sounding like this most of the time. So it's a lot better this way, I hope. Unless I'm completely wrong, and everybody who's listening live, or if you listen later, leave a comment below and laugh at me and be like, your audio is still horrible. F you, fat boy. I mean, you could say that if you wanted to be mean. You don't want to be mean, do you? Okay. Let me tell you a story about this pop filter. I'm going to tell you a story about my pop filter. Just got it. It came with the whole thing. I got the off of Amazon the newer setup they had. It was like $35 or $40 or something for the microphone, the cables, my swing arm, the pop filter, everything like that. And this pop filter is the biggest headache I have ever had setting up audio equipment in my decades of doing stuff. For some reason, and I was gonna RMA it, but I just decided to fix it instead. The original screw that came to attach it to my boom arm here was just stripped. Not that it was used, because everything was sealed. It was just like when they they put together, they used the wrong screw, and it just was completely stripped out. There was no threading on the middle section where is exactly where it's supposed to stay tight. It's a small, like, eighth of an inch section just completely stripped. Completely stripped. And I'm trying to get this to attach to this boom mic stand, and I'm just starting to get more and more agitated as I go along, to the point to where I just grabbed electrical tape and Play-Doh and some super glue and kind of just rebuilt threads on this screw, because I didn't have any other screws that fit. But the good news is, for some stupid reason, that actually worked. And it's held in place pretty strongly now. Don't know if I'll ever be able to get it off, but I don't really have a reason to take it off. I can just move it out of the way if for some reason I want you to hear all my P's and T's. But that was the most ridiculous thing I had to do. I'm sitting there with like Play-Doh and electrical tape, super glue and stuff on there, trying to build up threads to hold it in. Xander's looking at me like, why are you ruining my Play-Doh? And I looked at him, and he looked back at me, and I said, you really want to know? Yeah, Daddy, why are you ruining my Play-Doh? I'm like, because both of us need to have nice, clear audio for our live streams. That's why. He goes, I can use this stuff too? I'm like, well, that's one of the ways I justified us getting it, is it's for your streams and for my streams. So both of us can be here nice and clear. And I find it funny. I think about it this way. He has 14 or 15 subscribers on his channel with very little promotion from me. I did it for the first few streams and stuff like that, and he got like 5 or 6 subs at that point. But he's actually been gaining a small following all on his own. He has a couple of other younger YouTubers who subscribe to him, and he subscribed back, and he's building a little tiny fan base. Nothing too major, but I'm proud of him, and I don't force him to stream. There's some people actually pulled me aside and were like, "Do you think that's a smart idea to have him do live streams and to do videos and stuff on YouTube?" I'm like, well, he wanted to. Yeah, but what about the dangers of the internet? Well, one, he doesn't know how to read, so with him not knowing how to fully read yet, there is no dangers of the internet. People could ask him to step on our cats and eat the cat's intestines for lunch, and he would look at the jumble of letters and be like, I know the word cat, sort of. So there's no real dangers there. As he gets older, he'd be monitored a little bit more and everything, but he asked me to do this. He kind of looks up to YouTubers like Dan TDM and the popular MMO with Pat and Jen and stuff, and he just thinks it's fun. He really, like, his whole goal in YouTube isn't to make money. His whole goal in YouTube isn't to be rich and famous and have everybody adore him or anything like that. His entire goal for all of YouTube lifedom so far is to have Dan TDM watch one of his videos. He doesn't care which one. Just to have him watch one of his videos eventually, by finding it on his own, and maybe even subscribe. And I found that just to be absolutely adorable. Like, that's why he wanted to start the channel, was so that Dan TDM could eventually watch him play games, and he could give a shout out to Dan TDM. And it's one of those things. Hey, he has a hero who he wants to kind of to emulate and stuff in some way, and I think it's awesome for him to learn a skill, which doing this YouTube stuff is absolutely a skill. I'm actually amazed that I'm even doing it and talking to people for 2 hours every night about stuff, because I have horrible social anxiety. Those who know me, like Pete, if he's still in there, he can kind of vouch for the fact that if I'm not comfortable around somebody, I will just stay quiet. And I will not talk. And I like it that way. And I still am like that in the real world. But I'm using this to kind of help me to bide my time while I'm unemployed, and really focus on being a freelance artist. And if I can keep getting commissions like these, and maybe get some donations, link in the comment in the description below. Get some donations sometimes and stuff like that, to where I might not have to go back to work as soon as I thought I might need to. That would be awesome. Am I banking on it? No, but that would be awesome. And I'm doing it just for fun too, and to help me with some of my social issues, and just make me not worry about what people are thinking about me. I would love to just not worry about that sometimes. Thank you for the compliment there, Pete. And it's really it's fun to watch them, and I sometimes get kind of soccer momish about it occasionally. I'm really trying not to, but there's some points where I'm just like if I'm watching his stream, because when he does his streams, I try not to be in the room, so that way he can just be himself and not worry about if Daddy's watching or something. But I'll have my phone out, or I'll put it on the big TV out in the living room, and I'll sit there and I'll watch him, and I'll occasionally holler across the house, "Talk to your fans more! You're just staring at them." And I stop myself. I'm just like, it's his channel. Let him have his own world. And I'm just like, please talk. Tell them what you are doing. Come on. But I try not to. I really try not to. Because it's his world, and I only kind of live in it, and I have to edit one of his new videos tonight, so if you do follow Zan Amazing on YouTube, hint hint, plug plug, just do a search for Zan Amazing, XANAMAZING, and you'll find him. But I got him a present. I got him a fidget spinner from Dan TDM that has the Dan TDM logo on it and all that kind of good stuff. So he did an unboxing video for it that I'm going to be editing for him tonight. And it's adorable, because I opened it just to make sure it was still there. So I handed him the package, and he kind of knew what it probably was going to be. But I told him that I wasn't going to get it for him because he wasn't being good the one day, when I totally ordered it like 3 months ago, or however long it's been since he started taking pre-orders for it. And it's gonna be it's a fun little unboxing. It's not very long. It's only gonna be probably about a 2-minute video at most, but he gets really excited about the fidget spinner. And I originally, when it came to the fidget spinners, I didn't get them at all. So I didn't get Xander one at all for the longest of time. And I finally got him one not that long ago. I'd say about maybe 2 weeks ago now, or even less than that. It's only been about a week or a half that he had his first fidget spinner. Because I wasn't sure when Dan's was going to show up, because I know it was a pre-order, and he just really, really wanted one. So I found them at the local King Supers, and got him this fidget spinner, and I get them now. I understand them. It's not that bad. It's a fad, just like anything else, and they probably won't last too long as a fad, but he likes them, and they're kind of relaxing, and he, got 2 of them, and then, of course, because I kind of thought they were relaxing and everything, I got myself one, too. So I have my nice neon green fidget spinner that I use every now and then, just to kind of keep my sanity. Because when I'm not drawing, I do, really just need to be doing something with my hand. And it was a nice, cheap, $8 way of just having something to just kind of flick around. And I kind of want one of the cubes, the fidget cubes now too, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I might do it. We'll see. Overall, it's a fidget spinner. Not sure if it actually has any merit to the rumors that it helps with ADD and autism. It really probably doesn't. But they're fun little toys to play with. There's no real harm in them. They don't hurt people unless you weaponize them like some idiots have been, but... See, that's what you get for having a stove and kittens. That's why I keep mine in my pocket, and that's why I also told Xander that he had to keep his at all times in one of three places. One, it either had to be on top of his computer, his MacBook. If it was not there, it had to be on his bedside shelf in his room. And then finally, if it was not in his bedside shelf in his room, it had to be inside of his backpack, his Minecraft backpack. So, randomly throughout the day, I go ahead and I go, "Hey Xander, where's your fidget spinner?" Just to keep him on his toes. And I watch him, and I see if he goes to one of those three spots to get it. And if he does, awesome. If he goes, "I don't know," it gets taken away for the day. Unless he finds it before I do. That's just the way it goes. But I'm trying to teach him responsibility, at least when it comes to keeping track of small objects. Because I have a plan for that young gentleman for his birthday that I think he'll enjoy, and I'm actually... My brother is going to be sending me some of his older computer parts. Now, older computer parts to him are not like older computer parts to most normal people. I just want people to know that. He's sending me it's like a Asus gaming motherboard and all this type of crazy stuff, and like I think it's like 16 gigs of RAM and everything. The only thing he's not sending me is a case and a cooling system, which I have cases and I have cooling systems I could use, but I have a couple bucks to get extra fans and a heat sink and stuff like that. That's not a huge issue. But he's sending me that stuff, and I'm going to be retiring after coming up on 10 years. I'm going to be retiring my Alienware that I have had for those 10 years. It's officially being retired, which is why I'm doing all this stuff on here right now. And I'm going to repurpose it for Xander for his birthday. So he'll have a Windows machine to kind of noodle around on and do whatever he wants with. I kind of keep his Mac that I gave as a hand-me-down to him. I kind of keep that under strict observation because it's a Mac. And honestly, even though it's my old one, it's still a really good piece of hardware that can be used for so much stuff. This computer's not bad, but I have in this PC, still to this day, I still have a first generation i7. The i7-920 is the processor that's in here, running at its max of 2.3 gigahertz with the original i7 technology. So I hit a brick wall really hard when it comes to doing more than one thing at a time on this PC at this point. My hello pudding. I bet you guys are out of food. I will feed you after the stream. My cats are hungry and they have been meowing. They had a full gigantic bowl like this morning and they just went through it all in less than a day. So they can wait. I'm not being cruel. But yeah, it has an original i7. And this original i7 is, especially now that I'm doing a lot more art on this computer, I'm doing a lot more gaming on this computer again. And of course the streaming takes up a boatload of processor power, to where at times, like you're seeing right here, it slowed down and I stopped painting and it still took forever for that line to show up. When that happens, it's not good, and it throws me off my game. So I am not happy with it, and I was looking to build my own PC, and just like my brother does, he just seems to know exactly when I could use something new that he has no purpose for. And he messaged me the other day and just goes, "Hey, I noticed you were doing streams, and I noticed you were having some lag and stuff. I have old computer parts. Here's what I have. Do you want it all or not?" Okay. So I wasn't going to say no to it, and he always hooks me up with good stuff, so I always appreciate my brother. And I may not talk to him all the time. I may not see him nearly as often as I'd like to. I haven't seen him since I moved out to Colorado, just because life gets in the way. But, you know, he always helps me out. He's helped me out of a lot of binds, and I can't thank him enough for stuff like that. So there's going to be probably about a week or so where I might not have some streams because I will be transferring all this stuff over. And the cool thing is with the computer he's giving me is he's sending me I think an SSD, like a 256 SSD or something. So I'm going to be able to clone my hard drive that I have Windows on and just get that over to that SSD, and then all my other hard drives are going to fit in this new case I'm going to get eventually, pretty much splendidly, because I have about 6 terabytes of hard drive space, because I'm insane, and I'm a digital hoarder, I'm pretty sure at this point. I have about 6 terabytes of hard drive space, and those 6 terabytes I'm going to just plop into my new case. And then the hard drive that I have for my Windows installation now will be his Xander's hard drive for his Windows installation. So it's going to be pretty cool once I get going for him. I'm going to load up Minecraft on there. I'm going to get the recording software on there. Eventually I'll teach him how to use it so he can do his streams when he wants. And kind of go from there and see what happens. As long as he's good, I want to make sure that he understands the magnitude of what he's going to get to do at such a young age. Because he might not fully understand that, we're not privileged, but Daddy saves a lot of stuff. And Daddy knows computer stuff well enough that he can do stuff like this for him, and don't want him to be spoiled. I don't want him to kind of take advantage of the stuff that he does have in life. So I try to keep him grounded and kind of go from there. I knew you were a digital hoarder, Pete. I think we talked about this before. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before, to be honest with you. Right now, I actually have my 2011 MacBook, the one that I still do art on and stuff like that. I still have that, but I have it networked into this computer, so I can remotely log into my my desktop just to unload stuff off of it, because I only have a 256 gig in the MacBook, and they're not upgradable. Sigh, because I love Mac, but sigh. They're not upgradable, and without a huge hassle, at least. And I'm just using that really slow, headache-inducing networking over my Wi-Fi network to just dump gigabytes of data off. I have one hard drive in this PC that's literally just for dumping Mac stuff onto. It's basically my Mac hard drive. But this is getting close to almost being not done, but being at a point where I just need to focus on the minute details. what I'm planning on for this, once I finish up some little bit of details in her dress, I'm planning on going in and finalizing what I want for color. Because right now I'm just going off of the original photograph, which isn't the best way to go. Not for this particular piece. I have an idea. I have a concept in this piece. I'm going to be adding kind of a glow around each smaller portrait here. Kind of a Struzan glow, I like to call it, because Struzan does it all the time. I'm going to add a little bit more texture in the background and kind of pop the background out, and then I'm going to do some curves adjustments and some filters to harmonize all these colors. And that's where we're going to be at there. I think I am going to cut the stream a little bit short tonight by about 15 minutes. I'd like to do the 2 hours, but cats are being very loud, and I want to feed them so they shut up and leave me alone. And frankly, I'm hungry because I did not eat dinner yet. So I'm going to leave it here for now. I'm probably going to do some more work on it later. Don't think I'm going to live stream it, but I might. So just so you guys know, click that sub button, which I think is right around here. And then right next to it, if you just go like this, it'll be right around there. Or at least very close to it. Just follow the finger. It's a big red button that says subscribe, and there's a little bell next to it. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified when I do go live or when I upload any of my new videos. I'm planning on actually doing a time-lapse video of the wedding photo I was talking about earlier. If you missed that, this will be archived on YouTube very shortly. Go back and listen to it. I talk about a wedding photo that I have to do for a friend. And it's gonna be a pretty fun process. But I'm gonna do a time lapse of that one that I'm gonna upload to the entire world whenever I end up doing that. But either way, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to my new subscribers who did go ahead and subscribe to me. I can't appreciate you enough. Share it if you like art, if you like hearing people talk, or if you just like podcasts. That is what this kind of is. It's just a podcast with a dude drawing instead of just watching my face all the time. But share it, like it, subscribe to it, and definitely thank you so much for going ahead and watching me. I'm that Stephen Rice. I'm signing off for tonight, which tonight, of course, is Thursday, June 15th, 2017. Thank you so much once again. I appreciate it. Have a great one.